really believe God has led us to enroll Judah, our 5-year-old Itawamba Christian. We were originally going to enroll him in a different school, but in May I taught a devotion at a little school, Itawamba Christian, and I spoke with Bethany, and I really felt God was leading us to enroll at this school. And I spoke with my wife, and she said no at first, but we decided to pray about it, and it was very clear from praying about it that we were being led to enroll Judah at ICS.
And I'll piggyback off of that, and I'll say obviously education is really important to us as parents, but even more than that, we care about who our children are and who they're becoming. So we wanted to send him somewhere that would set him on a firm foundation, and I feel like ICS has done a really good job of cultivating that. I love that my children love it. They wake up and they want to come to school and they're excited to go to school. And the second best thing is whenever you're sitting around the dinner table and you ask your child what they've learned today, and they have Bible stories to tell you, and you just get to kick off your dinner conversation around Jesus.
Yeah, you can really tell that Judah, our son, loves coming to school. And joy, I think, is so important in that age, and I think him having joy surrounding school, surrounding learning is so important, especially with how young he is.
I think as parent, or I know as parents with our kids, we're given a task to assure that they grow up to love the Lord, and we can do that primarily by example and in our house and our personal training, but we only are able to do that so many hours a day. So it's a wonderful option to send them to a place where we know they're receiving Christian education from Christians that believe as we do, and that we're allowing them as many hours a day as possible to be nurtured in that way and presented with Christ.
So basically, like Dalton said, when you know that influence matters, and so to some degree you do become who you spend most of your time with. And so I feel like it's important for us to know that while our son's here, I mean, that's the majority of his day. And so, of course, like, we take seriously our role of teaching him at home, but it also matters what he's being taught and how he's being influenced while he's not at home. And so just making sure that we're putting him in a position where he continues to learn what the Bible says, and also how to even apply like biblical principles into his life. And so I feel like that's something that ICS does where he may not get that at other places. So there's 2 instances that came to mind, and one of those is I've like come to pick Breck up from school, and he'll be on the playground, and he's angry because another kid's playing with the toy that he wanted. And instead of just being like, oh, you have to share or give that toy to someone else, they take the time and explain to him, like, this is the fruit of the Spirit, you know, how to be patient, how to be kind, how to be slow, like, how are you slow to anger? And I've loved watching that, because I feel like even as an adult, sometimes it's hard to make sure that's how we respond in situations, even more so for a 4-year-old who doesn't really understand what those feelings even are. And so they really take the time to say, like, the Bible gives instruction for how we deal with this situation, and here's what the Bible says. So, like, how can we show that? How can we be kind to our friends, or how can we show patience to our friends? And then they also have put a priority on serving others before yourself. And so I think that's really important, because we're very selfish people, and then especially toddlers. Everything's always, you know, it's their world and we're living in it. And we were here for a little family event, and I heard one of the teachers say, can you serve someone else before yourself? And so they were encouraging the kids to simply, like, fix someone else a plate before you fix your own plate. And I just thought, I loved that they were doing that. They took the time to do that. So
yeah, and I'm appreciative that the discipline that comes from incorrect actions, discipline is not given as just we don't do this because this book says so. We don't do this because this dishonors God or dishonors your parents. There's a lot more to it than just rule following. It's more supportive of our parenting as well. A bunch of imperfect parents and students, and teachers for that matter, that are trying to live out the gospel, that are trying to honor God through methods and education, but are understanding of our condition, but ultimately pointing all efforts towards making sure these kids love the Lord, and as a nice aside, also have a brilliant education when they leave.
I mean, I think the return on investment here is like, you can't really, put a number to that. As far as truly looking at finances, which I feel like this question could go beyond that. But a lot of people say, I can't afford that. And I get where they're coming from. I mean, obviously, this economy is not easy. But one way we've looked at it is if we can afford it now, like if I can afford it for preschool, then I can fit that into my budget. And so it's just like a continuation of sacrifices. Like by the time he gets to kindergarten or first grade or second, like it can still fit into the budget, but you have to be willing to sacrifice, where you thought that money might free up and you could use it elsewhere. So that's one way we've looked at it, is if we can afford it now, then we can sacrifice in different ways to continue to afford it.
Yeah.
And I feel like you had a different approach, though, to the...
Yeah, just to add something to it. Ultimately, as I stated earlier, our ultimate goal is to assure that our kids love the Lord. And with loving the Lord, ultimately, will come salvation and an eternal destination. And for us, being assured our children are at least presented with the way. Jesus is the way, the truth, the life. That's priceless. And for us to withhold or place these funds in other directions seems, I don't mean to sound harsh, but it might seem a little selfish. Who are we to withhold a small part of our budget for a priceless end goal?